What's up, everybody? Chris here with the Pennsylvania Firearms Association. And in this video, I want to give you guys a political snapshot of the year ahead of us from the gun rights perspective, because I'm telling you right now, Pennsylvania gun owners are walking into a major fight. All right, so now before we get into the threats, I want to address something right out of the gate. You've probably seen the headlines about it, but a bunch of articles are going around bragging about Pennsylvania's voter registration. Republicans are closing the gap. Democrats barely have a lead. I think it was 57,000 Democrat registration advantage. And yes, Republicans have improved it a lot. Like I said, I think it's 59,000 advantage to the Democrats, and that's a huge shift. But here's the problem. Voter registration is not political victory. Registration numbers do not automatically turn into freedom. In fact, Republicans got absolutely destroyed in the November 2025 election. That tells you the truth. And here it is. MAGA isn't always Republican. There's a boatload of voters who turn out for Trump, but look at regular Republicans like a bunch of flaccid wimps. So when Trump is not on the ballot, those voters do not always show up. That is why this battle is not going to come down to voter registration. It's going to come down to one thing and one thing only: who is fired up? Because again, Trump is not on the ballot. And if our people get lazy, the gun grabbers are going to win. All right, so here's the big picture. Pennsylvania is not just another state. Pennsylvania is the political battlefield for 2026. If the gun control machine can break gun owners here, they can do it anywhere. And their top goal, I think, is pretty simple. Build statewide gun registration and then use it later to disarm people. That's the plan. It's not a theory. It's their plan. So let's talk about threat number one here. HB 1593. This is the center of the storm, quite frankly, for gun owners. They call it universal background checks, but we call it what it really is: universal gun registration, because it outlaws private gun sales. It forces gun owners through government tracking. And once government tracks gun owners, I know and you know, it never stops. And we all know the truth. Registration always leads to confiscation. Maybe slow, maybe fast, but always. All right, threat number two, and let me hit another one here. House Bill 1511. This one is dangerous because it is sneaky. They sell it as public safety. This bill is about crime and forensics, that's what they say, but it is a Trojan horse. What it does is it builds the infrastructure, databases, surveillance systems, tracking tools, and I'm just going to call it plain. They are building the cage first. Then later, they get to decide who goes into it. And once that system exists, just like statewide gun registration, it does not matter who controls it today, because someday the anti-gun politicians will, and then it gets used against people like you and like me. All right, so let's talk about the Senate firewall. I think there's two ways it can crumble. This is where things get really serious. The Pennsylvania House, it's already a mess. The Democrats are aggressive. They have a one-seat majority already. They're looking to expand it. They're organized. They're pushing gun control nonstop. So the only firewall left is the Pennsylvania Senate. And we hold the Senate by 2 seats, okay? 2. That's how many we control it by. But I need you guys to understand this. That firewall can crumble, I think, in 2 separate ways. The first way is procedural games. The Democrats are masters of procedural motions. They can use motions. They can use backroom deals. They can use media pressure. They can try to peel off 2 Republicans, get them to compromise, get them to cave, and suddenly a gun control bill moves on the floor of the Senate. That's all it takes, 2, and that firewall collapses. But here's the second way I think it can fall. And I think this is really the long game for the Democrats, and that is the 2026 elections. Democrats are going to pour millions of dollars into 3 or 4 Senate races, the Philly Collar, the Erie, Lehigh Valley, some of these races, they're going to pour millions of dollars into 3 or 4 of these races to flip the 2 seats that they need to take total control in 2027. And that means they're not just fighting bill by bill right now. They're trying to capture the Senate so that they never have to ask permission or make compromises with rhino Republicans ever again. And if they flip that Senate, if they flip the Pennsylvania Senate and keep the majorities that they have in the House and Shapiro with Shapiro in the governor's mansion, it's over. It is over, because then Shapiro gets everything he wants, a full Democrat legislature feeding him gun control bills all day, every day. And that kind of brings me to my next point here. Josh Shapiro's national power play. Let's talk about him for just a minute here, because this fight is bigger than Harrisburg. Shapiro wants to climb. He's a ladder climber. He wants national power. His presidential campaign is already underway. And Shapiro would love to say, I beat the gun lobby in Pennsylvania, because if he does it here, national Democrats will copy the playbook everywhere. That's why Bloomberg money is pouring in. That's why Ceasefire PA is here. That's why the media is here. They want Pennsylvania as the gun control trophy. The real danger, I want to talk about the biggest danger I think that we face right now, and it's not even the Democrats. The biggest danger is apathy. The biggest danger is apathy. Gun owners are frustrated. People are tired. A lot of people don't trust Republicans, and I get it, but here's the trap. Here's the trap. If gun owners stay home in the 2026 elections, if we shrug, if we say, it's pointless, Trump's not on the ballot, I'm going to go get a beer tonight with my friends instead of go vote, we're going to lose. We're going to lose, not because the Democrats persuaded us, but because we quit. And if we lose Pennsylvania, we don't just lose one state. Obviously, that would be catastrophic for Pennsylvania, but it doesn't just affect Pennsylvania at this point. If we lose Pennsylvania, the radical left is going to redistrict our state legislature, so it's not a 102 to 101 in the House anymore. It's a 160 to 40-something in the House to the Democrats and total control of the Senate. But we don't just lose Pennsylvania. So they'll redistrict Pennsylvania into the permanent blue category, not to mention they'll redistrict all of the congressional, and they'll do to us what they've done to so many other states. They will give us nothing or one, like they just did in Virginia. But if we lose Pennsylvania, this is a model then that the left will use everywhere. So now that we've discussed some of the problems, what is Pennsylvania Firearms Association going to do about it? In 2 words, it's called maximum pressure. PFA is launching maximum pressure, and we have one goal: stop House Bill 1593, statewide gun registration, cold. We want to keep it buried all session long. No hearings, no floor vote, no backroom deals, buried. Okay, so that's number one. We're going to flood the Senate with pressure. We're going to light up Senate districts. We're going to expose weak Republicans. Folks, they only got statewide gun registration out of the House because a couple of Republicans gave them the votes that they needed to get it done. So we're going to be exposing some of these weak Republicans. We're going to be punishing betrayals, especially in Republican primaries, because politicians need to fear gun owners more than they fear the media. So I've laid out a lot here. I want to close with this. Registration numbers are nice, but they do not win political fights. Energy wins the fight. Trump is not on the ballot this coming November, so it's going to come down to whoever is fired up, and the left is fired up. They are not going to stop unless they are stopped by us. So buckle up. It's going to be one hell of a ride, and Pennsylvania Firearms Association is going to be front and center every step of the way. So if you're with us, stay locked in. When we send an alert, please respond. When we call for action, you move, because Pennsylvania is the battlefield here, and we are not backing down.